With the release of The Amazing Spider-Man 2, slated to have at least 3 villains, while hinting at some more, as a big Spidey fan myself, I thought it would be fun to point out my favorite villains from his rogues gallery. Now, the only rules for this list is that the villain has to first appear in a Spider-Man comic, and fight Spider-Man for the majority of his existence. So, without further ado, let's begin. Number 10, the Sandman. First appearing in Amazing Spider-Man number 4, Flint Marko accidentally stumbled upon a military experiment in the desert, which caused him and the sand to combine, transforming him into the Sandman. His powers include the ability to transform into sand and manipulate his shape in any way he wants. Sandman has been in almost every Spider-Man media, from the movies to the comics and the animated series. Well, except for the 90s one. A common trend with the modern Sandman material is to try and make him a more likable villain by showing him to be more of a normal guy with just superpowers rather than a straight-up supervillain. These attempts have had some hits and some Spider-Man 3s. Even to this day, Sandman is still one of Spider-Man's most memorable antagonists. Number 9, the Lizard. From Amazing Spider-Man number 6, we have the king of snakes, crocs, and ruined lab coats, the Lizard, crawling his way into number 9. Kurt Connors decided to use his research about how lizards can regrow limbs and attempted to use a formula on himself in order to regrow his right arm. The experiment was a success, but it ended up transforming Connors into the Deadly Lizard. The Lizard has super strength, the ability to control reptiles, and can even climb walls like Spider-Man.
Wall crawling's my shtick! Hey, you start spinning a web and I'll sue!
Some version of Old Liz has him talking and making plans, but personally I prefer the version of Lizard who's just an animal acting on instincts, as I think that makes him a bigger threat. Another thing that many versions of the Lizard have is making Dr. Connors one of Peter Parker's personal teachers, making the battle of Arachnid versus Lizard more personal for the webhead. The Lizard, the only guy to do rip purple pants other than the Hulk. Number 8, Carnage. If you thought the Joker was messed up, meet this guy. Cletus Cassidy was a cellmate with longtime Spidey villain Eddie Brock, aka Venom. One day, when Venom's symbiote came to break Brock out of prison, it unknowingly had a baby. This baby was a red symbiote, which attached itself to the first thing it could find, which was, of course, Cassidy. Cassidy was already a psychopathic killer before he got the symbiote, but with it made him more powerful and more bloodthirsty, turning him into Carnage. Carnage had very similar powers to Venom, but he was more skilled and powerful. His symbiote could transform into different weapons such as axes and spears, which he would use to murder people while on a killing spree. Carnage was so powerful that the only way to beat him was for Spider-Man and Venom to team up in order to take him down. Carnage is a monster, plain and simple. He's even killed Gwen Stacy in the Ultimate Universe by sucking the life out of her. Yeah, comic books. While Carnage has yet to appear in a movie, he still remains one of Spidey's most dangerous and powerful villains. Number 7, the Hobgoblin. Back in the day, Spider-Man's arch-nemesis, the Green Goblin, was off on a permanent vacation in hell. So, in The Amazing Spider-Man number 238, a brand new villain was made called the
Hobgoblin! Every Spider-Man needs one.
While Hobgoblin is now known as Roderick Kingsley, originally the writers chose to keep the identity of this new villain a mystery, much like the original Goblin. All that was known was that he was a criminal who tried to escape from Spider-Man into the sewers, and came across the lair of the Green Goblin. Deciding to use the Goblin's technology, weapons, and an alternate version of the Goblin formula, which removes some of the side effects of the original, he became a brand new ripoff. Wait, the Hobgoblin was allegedly stronger than the Green Goblin, but not as skilled, not insane, but not as ambitious. He proved to be much more than just an imitation, and was a mainstay until Osborn returned to take back his throne.
Only you live that, because I'm the real deal, you cheap imitation!
Out of all the Green Goblin clones over the year, he has been proven to be the most memorable and the most popular. He may not be as good as the original green one, but he's still one deadly goblin. Number 6.
What'd you call me?
Lightning Bud?
No, not that! Electro. Yeah. I'm Electro!
From The Amazing Spider-Man number 9, we have Electro. Well, to be more specific, I'm talking about the version from the Spectacular Spider-Man, because it's far better than the original. In this version, Max Dillon was an engineer at Dr. Connors' lab who got into an accident where he was electrocuted, then doused in water, then electrocuted again, so he died. Or, he would have, but this is a comic book story, so instead he got the ability to control electricity. The version from the Spectacular Spider-Man is a far more tragic version of the character, much like Mr. Freeze from Batman the Animated Series. All he wants is to be normal so he can start his life all over again.
My call? My call? None of this has been my call!
It's really depressing because at the beginning, before he became Electro, Max Dillon seemed to be quite a nice average guy, and to see him transform into this monster is quite, dare I say, shocking.
You shouldn't have done that! You really shouldn't have done that.
Jeez, sorry. Anywho, it was such a shame to see how this show has cancelled because I would have loved to see where this character would have gone. Plus, look at his design. It's way better than his old costume or, what the hell is this? Number 5.
I'm the Vulture!
I called you a buzzard! What? You can't even get the name right.
Probably the oldest Spider-Man villain in this list, the Vulture. And I mean that in terms of age, not actually in terms of issue number, because that would be the Chameleon, or if you really want to count him, the Burglar from Amazing Fantasy 15. But I digress. Adrian Toomes invented a flying harness, but his partner stole the idea from him and he didn't give him any credit, so Vulture chose to get his revenge and use his wings to rob banks.
Announce to the world that Adrian Toomes is the genius behind TechFlight. You will pay me all that I am owed, and you will publicly apologize for stealing my invention!
I never apologize, old man.
For the longest time, I didn't care too much for the Vulture. His power was okay, but there wasn't much that made him likable in my eyes. That was until I read Marvel Knight Spider-Man. In this comic, you find out that Vulture actually has a grandson who he ends up taking a liking to, but the grandson has a disease, so Vulture steals money to help him. It's actually like Sandman in Spider-Man 3, only Toomes isn't constantly staring at a locket to tell us that he cares. I really like this idea, and now it makes him more human and more likable. While I know some people think that his appearance and his power is lame, I still find him to be entertaining and fun. Isn't that right, Beak Brain?
The name is Vulture!
Number 4, the Scorpion. First appearing in Amazing Spider-Man number 19, Mac Gargan was a private investigator sent by J. Jonah Jameson in order to find out how Peter Parker got his pictures of Spider-Man. After failing to get any worthwhile information, Jameson hired Gargan to try out an experiment to infuse his DNA with that of a scorpion. Why a scorpion?
I chose to use a scorpion because it's a natural predator of the spider.
Huh. Gargan then went out to fight and actually defeated Spider-Man, but he was so horrified at what he'd become that he went insane and tried to kill Jameson, who was rescued by Spider-Man. Ever since then, the Scorpion has been Spidey's most deadly villain, besides, well, the big three, with super strength, agility, and a long metallic tail that can shoot acid. Most versions of the Scorpion portray him as someone who just wants to become normal, but can't, which is a very tragic story. He even at one point got the Venom symbiote, making him even more powerful, and allowed him to get rid of the Scorpion tail, and even told him Spider-Man's secret identity. Jeez. However, the symbiote was later removed and the Scorpion suit was put back on, thankfully. Still to this day, one of the Webhead's most powerful opponents, Scorpion shows no sign of stopping his malicious misdeeds. Number 3, Dr. Octopus. Spider-Man's most recurring enemy first appeared in Amazing Spider-Man number 3. Dr. Otto Octavius was a scientist whose experiment literally blew up in his face, fusing his robotic arms up to him and allowing him to control them with his mind, turning him into
Dr. Octopus.
aka
Doc Ock.
aka
Crap.
For having such a simplistic design and power, Doc Ock has made a huge staple in the Spider-Man comics with such genius plans as getting 6 of the most deadly villains together to kill Spider-Man, create a criminal organization where his identity as leader was kept a secret, and most recently he swapped minds with Peter Parker and became Spider-Man after Peter died in Doc Ock's body, a story which all the fans loved. Out of all the villains, Doc Ock is probably the most iconic and the most reoccurring Spidey villain. Oh, and in case you're thinking, oh, well, he died in the last issue of Superior Spider-Man. This is comic books. He'll be back eventually. Number 2.
We're poison to Peter Parker and Spider-Man. We're Venom!
First appearing in Secret Wars number 8, the symbiote joined with Spider-Man to help repair his costume and make Spider-Man more powerful. However, things went wrong when Peter Parker discovered that this new suit actually had a mind of its own and was trying to take over Peter's mind. Eventually, Peter managed to remove the cell from his body thanks to church bells, but the problems were only beginning as the symbiote found a new host, Eddie Brock, a reporter whose career Spider-Man and Peter Parker had ruined.
Cost me my job, my reputation, my health.
my apartment?
And came in contact with the symbiote to poison Peter Parker and Spider-Man. He became Venom, and eventually attacked Spider-Man in issue number 300. With all of Peter's spider powers and the ability not to attract his spider sense, and the knowledge of his secret identity, Venom became one of Spider-Man's most devastating enemies.
We know who you are, and everyone you care about.
When fighting him, Spidey doesn't even crack jokes. That's how dangerous he is.
Oh, will you please just shut up?
That's Spidey. He can quit it out. But he can't take it.
Although he's changed hosts a few times, many agree that the original Eddie Brock Venom is the best. No one could possibly top Venom in terms of great Spider-Man villains, well, except for whoever number 1 is. Number 1.
Stand back for the real Goblin, or the Green Goblin!
You all saw this coming. Who else could it be? Norman Osborn, the ruthless head of Oscorp, became the Green Goblin when exposing himself to some experimental strength-enhancing chemicals, which worked, but had the side effect of driving Norman insane. From here, he decided to become a supervillain. Basing it off of mythological goblins, he created a green costume because, no joke, his favorite color is green. That madman! After becoming a villain, Green Goblin set his eyes on destroying Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man number 14 in a convoluted plot involving Enforcers, Hollywood, and the Hulk. But due to various problems, the Green Goblin was never able to destroy Spider-Man. All that changed, though, in Amazing Spider-Man number 39, where the Green Goblin used a special chemical to disrupt Spider-Man's spider sense, allowing him to discover the Webhead's secret identity, making him the first villain to discover that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. He also has been the most successful Spider-Man villain, killing off Gwen Stacy, who, by the way, never came back, comic book industry, and created the terrible Spider-Man clone saga. That madman. Norman Osborn even became the leader of S.H.I.E.L.D. at one point. The Goblin doesn't really have superpowers besides super strength, but he does have a glider and a pack of tricks filled with various weapons, including bat shurikens and pumpkin bombs. Where's he come up with this stuff anyway? Whatever. No one's ever tested and devastated Spider-Man more than the Green Goblin, making him the number 1 greatest Spider-Man villain. So those were my top 10 favorite Spider-Man villains. Were there some that you wanted to see? Tell me in the comments below. Thank you all for watching, and oh god, I hope Amazing Spider-Man 2 isn't as bad as the trailers make it look.